my name is Katie Bond with the Alberta Hospitality Association, and I'm excited to show you our health and safety management platform in partnership with the Alberta Small Brewers Association and InUnison, an occupational health and safety technologies company based right here in Alberta. As businesses in the hospitality industry begin to reopen, our new safety processes are necessary. There is a lot of legislation and guidelines from government that provides the expectations and end goals of where you need to be. Our platform provides you with the how, the tools, and an easy to use roadmap that shows you and your staff the steps needed in order to get you efficiently to that end destination of reopening and continuing to operate successfully and safely. With that, I'm pleased to introduce you to Graham Math, who will be walking us through the platform today.
Hi there, my name is Graham Math, one of the co-founders at InUnison Technologies. So as Katie mentioned, we partnered up with the Alberta Hospitality Association and the Small Brewers Association to provide you with this safety platform to help guide you through the reopening phases. So our skill set here is looking at risk management. So when we're talking about risk management, what we're trying to do is trying to manage a risk to your workers, also to your patrons, and to yourselves as a business. So trying to reduce the business risk as well. So if something were to happen, you're able to reduce that risk so you continue to operate safely. So with that in mind, I'm going to share with you my screen and we'll start the demonstration. Okay, so this is the InUnison platform. What you're looking at here is the safety program. So these safety programs are based off the government regulations and the guidelines. And what we've done is we've put them together, looked at the requirements here, and also got industry experts to make sure that the guidelines and the programs are pragmatic and is available to your business. So the first thing here is the COVID-19 policy. So with the policy, this is for your business in terms of your commitment to what you're doing to help reduce the risk of the spread of COVID-19. As you can see here, it looks at the goals and what you're going to achieve by following these goals. On the right-hand side here, we have the date stamp. So with this, what you can do is, as a requirement, what you want to do is you want to be able to communicate what you're doing to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. The communication needs to be done with your staff members. So what they can do through the platform, they can have access to the policy and they can go in and read and accept the documents. Once they've read and accepted the documents, they'll have a red stamp here. So as a manager, you're able to identify who has read the document and who hasn't. And if you know who hasn't read the document, we can go through and ask them to read through the document as well. The COVID-19 management plan, this is the nuts and bolts of it all. This is what you need to do to reopen safely. So when looking at the requirements, the first thing here is a hazard assessment. The hazard assessment looks at the risks associated to that position and how that risk can affect a particular worker or a client. So by defining the risks, we can then look at what controls need to be in place. This hazard assessment really looks at the overall risk of the spread and how we can contain or reduce the risk of COVID-19 from spreading. Within the program, we have the training and communication requirements, looking at some of the preventative methods. So this is the screening process, which I'll show you a little bit later on, which is the event reporting piece. So very similar to the self-assessment that you can find online through the other government health services. However, we've tied in some workflow to make sure that there is a instant communication to a general manager or your supervisor to make sure that response is enacted quickly. Next part is the hygiene. the requirements for cleaning and disinfecting, some of the cleaning and disinfecting products. So again, making sure that you have the right chemicals in place that is actually going to kill the virus. Then we're looking at the social distancing, so how or what we need to do to maintain that 2 meter distance. Also looking at some signage as well. Other control measures, again, this is through discussion with industry experts and the leaders within the food and beverage industry, looking at what control measures other businesses are taking into and looking at best practices. So as the guidelines change, as legislation changes, what this system will do is it will change with it. So again, giving you the ability to have the most current information that's pragmatic to your business, and also notification via email, which will let you know what those changes are. Next, we're looking at the personal protective equipment, so types of PPE that's required and the cleaning and storage of that. One of the big requirements here is, and also to help reduce the risk of an infection within your business, what they say as an outbreak is 5 or more positive COVID-19 for the food and beverage industry or any other industries outside of the care facilities. 5 is that outbreak. So again, trying to reduce the risk of the spread. So Section 4 here looks at what a business should be doing when a worker is symptomatic or they have exposed workers. So by following these simple steps, it will guide you to make sure that you're doing the right things to make sure that that spread is contained. Next, we're looking at isolation. Now, this is based on the Alberta regulations. So again, looking at what the isolation requirements are if you had tested positive or if you are symptomatic. All the references here will link directly to the URL. So if you wanted additional information on certain things related to COVID-19, you can always go to the reference links. Now, what we've also developed here is more of a quick guide. So as a new business coming onto the platform, this would probably be your #1 document to look at. This will step you through what you need to do to be able to implement this program effectively. So looking at documentation, it'll go through what you need to do in terms of reading the document, making sure that you as a business owner or the manager signs and dates the policy, making sure that this policy and the management program and all the information is provided to your workers. We talked about the hazard assessment. Again, this is something that's fairly critical in terms of knowing what your hazards are and knowing how you're going to control those hazards. Training requirements, again, looking at what sort of training have you provided to your workers to make sure that they are kept safe and also your customers are kept safe. The pre-screening process here looks at making sure that if someone was symptomatic, they were able to declare that they were symptomatic and do not step onto your premise. So it reduces the risk of an infection to your staff members and also your customers. We've also developed a pre-opening checklist. Now with this pre-opening checklist, it goes through certain controls that you should have in place. So for example, signage, hand sanitizers, making sure that you have the social distancing posters up on certain areas of your establishment. So what we can do now is sort of go through the forms that help provide you with these guidance. So within the forms, we have all the signs and posters that's available publicly from the website, but it's located on the one InUnison platform here. So rather than having to go out and search, you can have all that access here. So again, downloading what you feel you require to start posting on within your business. So looking at the hazard assessment for the hospitality industry or the food and beverage industry, what you can do is you can click on the download button and it will bring out a PDF that is fillable. So again, looking at the instructions, answering yes or no to the potential hazards. Where there is a yes, making sure that you have particular controls in place. So these are all fillable fields. You can look at the location, the data is completed, and completed by who. So for example, if you had a cashier and the task was handling cash, the hazard is handling cash with the potential of virus on the surface. If that is a potential hazard to your business, you'll select yes. And then some of the recommended controls here is maybe encouraging online payment or use of gloves. So then as you're going through this document here, you can say, okay, for my cashier staff, I need to make sure that we do have a online payment system and we have the adequate PPE such as gloves as part of the recommended controls to control that particular hazard. So as you're going through this document, we have different positions from the kitchen staff down to the server, host, hostess, and greeter. And then if there's any additional information that you want to add onto this list, you have fields here that are free text. Then we have the bartender as well. So again, if, for example, you didn't have a bartender for as one of your positions, then you'll just select no and no. And that means that this particular hazard isn't a hazard anymore. Now that you've got the management plan, you've got the quick reference guide in terms of what you need to do to implement it. You've looked at the hazard assessment and you're ready to go and you're ready to open the doors to reopen. What we've done is we've developed this pre-opening checklist. So with the pre-opening checklist, again, this is up to you as a business owner or general manager to either do it every day before opening, do it weekly, or as you feel is necessary. So looking at when you're entering your location at your entrance, do you have the COVID-19 policy signed by the manager and visible? This will provide confidence to your customers coming in. Do you have signage available? Is hand sanitizers available? Are you using 2 meter floor distance markers? Yes or no? Is there extra seating in the wait room or the entrance where you will just want to remove from there to make sure that that 2 meter distancing is maintained? So as you do this walkthrough before you open your doors at the start of each day, it just gives you a bit more confidence in terms of saying, yep, I'm confident that when the first customer walks through the door, we have all these controls in place to help reduce the risk of a COVID-19 spread. For where we have a no selected on any one of these, this is where you can start to type in an action. So if, for example, we didn't have a COVID-19 manager visible, you can select no, and the action would be to post the COVID-19 policy. Now you can take that away and make sure that that is actioned. So before you open your doors, these have been in place. So it goes down from the entrance into the front of house, and then also the back of house, making sure things are cleaned and sanitized appropriately. And then again, your restrooms. And if you have other locations that's not mentioned on this checklist, then you can start to complete that as well. So one of the key things we're looking at is the pre-screening. So again, if someone was symptomatic or someone had been in contact with someone who was tested positive to COVID-19, what we want to do is reduce the risk to your business and make sure that that your worker are kept safe and isolated, and then also looking at potentially who they may have been in contact with prior. So this event module here, what we have to do is just go into add events, select the event type, which is the COVID-19 pre-screening. Now, as a worker coming into shift, I'll put in my start or my shift date and my start time being 6 p.m. tonight. I would choose the region and the location. Now, these screening questions are taken from the health services guidelines. So they're online pre-screening question looking at key things. So are you experiencing any of the following? That's not related to a pre-existing illness or injury. So you'll go through and select whichever is applicable. Now, if I were to select no for all of them, that means as a worker prior to coming to work, I've declared myself fit for duty. So I'm not symptomatic, I haven't been exposed to COVID-19, and I'm declaring that I'm fit to come to work. Now, for example, if I were to say yes to any one of these questions and hit save and continue, the system will automatically generate a task that will go to my general manager saying, look, Graham is potentially symptomatic, or he has been exposed to potentially COVID-19. Now, this corrective action will go directly to my supervisor or my general manager, and he will be able to get that instant notification and respond fairly quickly. So he needs to make sure that I'm isolating for the minimum required amount of days, and to ensure that the business's COVID-19 procedures are actioned. So my general manager is able to do that, make sure that I'm kept safe, make sure that I haven't been within the establishment. And also now what he can do is, knowing that I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, there might be some shift changes or operational changes that he will need to do or she will need to do to cover that. So as we go into these reports, again, as a manager, what I can do is I can filter by event types. I can choose the date. So if I wanted to say, okay, how many people have completed the COVID-19 pre-screening from a previous day, we can start to look at that. So we can stay on top and make sure that, you know, our workers are declaring themselves fit for work. And if anything were to happen, we've got records in terms of who's been at work, and we can start to make sure that we can contact them and give them the appropriate information. Now, the event module here has multiple types of different events. So if you were to look at any training, we can add in some training. Or if you needed to do any inspections, you can start to inspect the worksite as well. So again, looking at how this system can be more than just a COVID-19 pre-screening, we can start to add in some operational tasks in here that would help benefit your business. So that's a really high level view of the safety program, looking at the what and how you need to reopen safely, and it gives you guidance. And then the event piece looks at some of the tools that you can use to help get you to that end destination of reopening safely. So again, thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time.